to Bloody Good Horror.
Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric and I'll be your host for this evening where we will be reviewing Freaks. That's 2020 Freaks, not Todd Browning Freaks, although that movie might actually be more uplifting somehow. We can talk about it. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me tonight, first up from Chicago, Illinois, please welcome Joe to the show.
Podcasts, #1 source for audio-based opinions.
Next up from Hotlanta, Georgia, please welcome Cece.
Hello.
From Indiana, please welcome the big dog, Casey, to the house.
Hello.
And last up tonight, he was in New York City, but then he fled because of reasons. So he's not there anymore, but that's where he's from. Please welcome Mr. John Schnarch to the show.
Hello, Eric.
It was just occurring to me as I'm introducing everybody, Cece, I don't know what Atlanta's like right now, but between the five of us, we've hit at least 3 of the major hotspots in the country right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Atlanta hasn't gotten, Atlanta's bad, but we're not there yet. But it's taken us a while to get to even a stay-at-home label, so I have a feeling it's going to get pretty bad before it gets better.
Indy's a potential hot spot from what I've heard.
Were they slow
lucky
to
us.
adopt the stay at home? You've been
Oddly
home.
enough, I've been home for 2.5 weeks now.
Indiana, I assume, was real big on pray it away type containment, right?
Atlanta, home of the CDC, so
Yeah.
where I thought we would all be, heading in the, sort of post-apocalyptic time.
Right.
Right.
Well, it's also true with this movie that it's worse before it gets better. But we can talk about that soon. Before we do that, Joe, please tell us what we are drinking tonight.
Beer guts.
No point? I get no point now?
You can't hear the music, dude?
You get no fucking point now? Freaks. A heartwarming tale about a young child trapped in a house, and if she goes out, she'll die. Or at least that's what her father tells her, which is just great for for this environment. But Freaks kind of refers to these group of folks with special powers. Not the nicest term, but that's what most people call them. I use the term misfit, which is where I got the beer for this week from the good folks at Onion or Wild Onion Brewery. That's in Lake Barrington, Illinois, but they distribute all over this fine country. This is their Misfit IPA, which they actually have a few different versions of this, but the one at the heart, and I really like the way that they describe this, a velvety, chewy IPA with a perfect blend of hop bitterness, aroma, and malt body.
I love chewing my beer.
Chewy. So this one's their year-round. It's kind of their flagship beer. It's like a straightforward, you'd probably call it like a West Coast IPA. So like a lot of hops, a lot of bitterness. Smooth drinking though. Comes in at 6.5% alcohol. So, it's a little up there, but you have a good time. Wild Onion, they put out great stuff. And they're fairly small, but they distribute pretty far. John and Eric, you might remember that we went to the Wild Onion Brewery in Oak Park when you guys were here for Spooktoberfest. That's where we ate lunch before heading to the city.
Oh,
Yeah.
delightful.
So, yeah.
Great wait staff.
They were super nice. They're great. Their original brew pub is out by me, Lake Barrington, which is like 15 minutes from my house. Really good. Their beers are great. Their food is great. So if you can get out here, I definitely recommend you check them out. But they do distribute. I know I used to get them back in New York and Jersey when I was on the East Coast, so you can definitely get them out that way. So big fan. Onionbrewery.com is their website, and you got nothing else to do, so you should drink like 9 or 10 and just fucking wait for day 2. I don't know.
Joe, would you say you're drinking more or less under quarantine?
More. I was gonna say less beer, but I'm drinking. Yeah, when I was trying to do the diet, I definitely cut down a lot. But like now, there's a couple breweries near us that I really wanted to support, so I've been buying a lot from them. I just brewed a batch, which I'm now just like sitting on.
Nice.
And the wife is obviously hitting the wine a little harder, so I'll split a bottle with her. Like we've ramped it up a bit. you
Yeah.
know?
No, that's
There's
understandable.
nothing else to do, man.
I know,
I'm
I know.
drinking way more.
I'm even
Yeah.
drinking semi-regularly, and I never do that. So,
Yeah, same.
I find myself more concerned about running out of alcohol than I do like toilet paper and like necessities.
I have a shout out, Joe, for all the gluten-free people out there. My new favorite, Cidergeist, is from this brewery called Rheingas, which is in Cincinnati. It's like it's a semi-dry cider. It's incredible. Best cider I've ever had.
Well, there you go.
Strong words.
It's incredible. All right, Joe. Thank you for that. Let's do it. Let's take a quick break and review Freaks.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
And we're back. John, do you think someday someone will write a movie about how you fled New York City?
Dropped your town like a bad habit.
It wasn't just me, man. I have a feeling. Well, I don't know how many people got out.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm like semi-shocked you waited as long as you did. I think I would have been out of there about a week before you were.
See, we were on the earlier side too, because I don't know if y'all remember. We had to go into quarantine even like a week before most people were doing it. So we're just cool like that. What can you say?
I know it's bad because like
Trendsetters.
I grew up in New York. I don't live there anymore, but I'm in the Northeast, so I'm still seeing a lot of like Cuomo's press briefings, and like every day as he just gets more and more in the shit, he's wearing less clothing. He's in the wartime suit now. You know what I mean? It's like polo shirt, khakis.
Did you see today? It was in a tube top.
I was gonna say you saw his brother who works for CNN tested positive today.
Oh no.
As they said, I don't know. So the Cuomo brothers, you got to watch out.
Hey, John, you taking the extra time to learn words down there?
Eric, I got nothing but time to look at words.
Yeah. Well, you should point out you had your word before Joe had his beer.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to bring the heat,
It's true. Once in 556 episodes. Hey, John, why don't you bring us the word of the day?
Eric, today's word, quarantine.
Oh. There's no way you have not used that before.
I looked it up, Joe. I went through, I looked, and haven't. Quarantine, Quarantine. I think we're all pretty familiar here with the definition. A state, period, or place of isolation in which people or animals that have arrived from elsewhere or been exposed to infectious or contagious disease are placed. And it can be used as a verb to mean impose isolation on a person, animal or place. It comes to us, so this was, it's both somewhat weird, but then really not. The origin is Italian, quaranta, which means 40. 40. And I guess
like a Colt 45 or like a...
No, so I think it refers to 40 days. So the quarantine was for a period of 40 days, and that is just carried forward.
Old English?
No, it comes straight from the Italian, according to the Google machine.
I meant the 40.
Yes. Old
Thanks,
English.
John.
Yeah.
Very nice. John, is now a good time to point out that you're the person who suggested this depressing-ass movie?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, it had been. I'll
From your
somewhat
posh
defend
house
John
in
here.
Maryland, this is the movie you decided.
From the compound you're living on now? You're like in a... Yeah.
I mean, we have had it on the radar for a few weeks. Like, I'll somewhat defend John on this. Like, I was all in to watch this also.
I appreciate that, Joe. We had heard about it. We did a little bit of research. It has good tomato scores, so you know, it's not like we were the only people talking about or thinking about this movie.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, sorry. Casey's distracting me in chat. Can you?
Sorry.
I got it, Casey. Can you, John, tell me what this movie's about?
Freaks. Yeah, so you called it a 2020. I think it was to Netflix on 2020. Originally made the festival circuit 2018. This is directed by two guys, written and directed by two gentlemen, Adam Stein and Zach Lipovsky. It is their first feature they've done together. They've done some stuff. They have worked together, and they've done a couple of other sort of movie TV things. They're probably the thing that I wasn't familiar with, but I don't know, maybe other people are. There was a show called On the Lot. Have you guys heard of On the Lot?
No.
So this was a Fox TV reality show that was produced by Steven Spielberg and Mark Burnett, where they had like teams. It was basically Project Greenlight, I think.
Yeah.
But sort of like more recently. So these guys were on that. So I guess I don't know if anyone's familiar with that program.
I'd hoped it was about parking lot attendants. I feel like that would be a lot of fun.
Oh, that is a movie. I told you about that. It's called The Parking Lot.
Yeah, no, I've seen that,
Yeah.
but like I figured somebody would have picked that
Thought
up
it
and
was
made a
a
reality
sequel.
show about it, right?
Yeah.
It's an idea waiting to be birthed upon us.
Are we
Here.
live? Someone's gonna take that. Eric, shut this down. Patent
Shut-
pending.
call it.
Patent.
Got it.
Chop.
I'll cut this part out.
So, all right. So the plot of the film is we are introduced to Chloe. She's a 7-year-old, and she is being held, let's say against her will, although I don't know, it's a little complicated, by her father in a very dilapidated house. Father here played by Emil Hirsch, and you quickly come to realize, and through her, we are sort of we see that she's essentially being gaslit, Joe. I think that's an appropriate use of the term. He's gaslighting her. He's essentially keeping her in this house, telling her that there is something going on outside that she can't go out. I mean, we're given no background. There's a couple of times very early in the movie where we see her look outside, and it looks sort of ghostly. There's literally, I think there's one shot of birds just still in the air, not like flying, but not moving. But otherwise, you don't really know what's going on. You just start to see a bunch of weird shit go down, and slowly it's revealed that Chloe has powers. Sort of unclear what these powers are. And also in the background, we're starting to see sort of bits and pieces of, I don't know, call it sort of post-apocalyptic, sort of sci-fi-ish stuff going on. Mainly this is through the news that Emil Hirsch is watching. Chloe is contacted by a creepy ice cream delivery driver, played by Bruce Dern. She goes with him pretty quickly and willingly, although, and it's pretty sketchy right away, but he is revealed to be her grandfather. And sort of the crux of the story is that he's been trying to contact her as she's being held by her father, because her mother, who she thinks is dead, is actually being held in a secret government compound.
It should be pointed out that all
Yeah.
this information you're passing on, it takes a good hour to put together.
No,
Yeah.
see, I would say you get the Bruce Dern stuff. It's really sort of like Act 2. It's sort of, I would say that's like kind of the midpoint. But yeah, I mean, it is.
Yeah.
It's a slow build. I would say the first act is really about Chloe and her dad, and then it's her world expanding through Bruce Dern. But you know, I don't think it's too spoilery. I mean, if you read the Wikipedia page, you'd get this in the description at the very top. But essentially, they are they're freaks, but they're freaks because they have superpowers. They all have sort of different superpowers. The superpowers are passed down genetically. Bruce Dern, the grandfather, he's the father of the mother who's in this government captivity. And Emil Hirsch, the dad, has been trying to protect Chloe from being discovered, essentially. And they're living in this residential neighborhood. So that's kind of the tee up. From there, it turns into, I don't know, sort of a sci-fi thrillery action thing, but it does take a little while to get there for sure.
I'm not gonna lie, I blacked out in the middle of that. Hey Joe, what'd you think of this?
Not a fan. I don't know. I mean, and I tried. We talked a lot about this over email. Like, definitely watching it in the situation we're all in right now, kind of definitely puts this through a different lens. But I tried to kind of ignore that while I was watching it. But in general, I think my biggest complaint is the first. It's what, like an hour and 45 minutes. The movie, the first hour 20 is really all over the place. I felt like a lot of the actors were like given different direction as far as like how this movie was supposed to be played out. Like Dern definitely comes off as a little more lighthearted. The father is just like straight up terrifying. The
Dern's
daughter,
Dern's pretty cracked too, though.
yeah, he is, but yeah, I don't know. He's definitely hard to explain. I really enjoyed him. I thought the daughter did pretty well. But overall, it felt like super scatterbrained, and I had not trouble following it, but like when I did piece things together, I'm like, what the fuck? How did that get to be there? So I don't know. Overall, I wasn't like a huge fan.
CC.
So I'm more on Joe's side with this. Like, I didn't hate it, and parts of it, like, I like the concept. I wish that it were a little more cohesive and I don't know, like a little more tangible there in the middle. But I mean, I liked the actors. I would rather watch this than some other movies we've had to watch. So, yeah.
Casey.
It's in the middle of movies we've watched, is what you're saying.
Yes. If you have, like, I don't know, Annabelle or, like, you know, the best movie ever, this is more in between.
Okay, fair.
Casey.
Well, first off, I gotta say, best Emil Hirsch vehicle since Speed Racer, right?
I really want to talk about Emil Hirsch later, so we got to get back to this.
I'm like I'm only vaguely aware of who this dude is.
Ah, man. All right. Well, okay. We should definitely come back to it.
Nice. I enjoyed this movie for the most part, but at the same time, I see exactly what CC and Joe are talking about. It is kind of all over the place. What made me like this movie more than anything was since Schnars kind of spoiled it there in his plot drop. This is essentially a take on like part of the X-Men mythos that they've restructured and redone as, you know, kind of something more bleak and scary and into the world. And I kind of like the way that they tried to fool us with that. I thought some of that stuff was in that first half was pretty well done. Now, is it the greatest movie ever? No. But did I enjoy it for the most part? And I enjoyed the story? Yeah, I'd say that. I thought everybody's acting was okay for the most part. It does get confusing as you go. But I thought Emil Hirsch was fine. And the little girl, it was really great as she went. She was pretty intense as the movie went on. So
yeah,
goes to that too.
John.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say I am much more on the like side of this. It is, as CC pointed out, probably in the middle of movies that we've watched overall. But no, but I ended up having a pretty good time, and for exactly the reason Casey kind of hit on it. I mean, I love the X-Men call out because it essentially is like the first X-Men movie, like with the whole government rounding up mutants, those mutants using their powers to fight back. I mean, it's taking all of that comic book stuff, removing the more comic booky elements of it and treating it more seriously and more, I don't know, grimly for sure, right? Like, it is a dark movie. I was giving you all a hard time that you were sort of overreacting to sort of the initial how grim it is in the beginning, but it is pretty grim, and it is not lost on me that we are all locked inside and watching a movie about a father who's like essentially gaslighting his daughter about what's going on. I mean, I'm not doing that to my
yeah,
kids.
John felt oddly familiar.
No, like I'm not.
Like 10 minutes in, I sent an email saying like, Jesus Christ, like what's going on here?
Yeah,
and you said it lightens up at some point.
I know,
and then,
that's what I kept waiting for. I was like,
yeah.
Well,
you know
where?
What? Maybe the last 10 seconds.
Yeah,
like,
the first 10 minutes is a challenge.
Literally, I got that email from you saying it lightens up while Bruce Dern was abusing this kid on the playground.
Stop it. So when I say it what I meant when I said it lightens up is like it gets more, not campy, but like more comic booky, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
there's
campy
more
is
like
probably the-
action to take
Yeah.
away from the fact that you are locked inside.
Yeah, and you essentially stop taking it as seriously as sort of you stop worrying about the girl as much, I guess, because you realize like, oh, she's the most powerful character in
Yeah.
the movie by a wide margin. And once you see her start to come into her own, it really is a story about like what a 7-year-old who's got ridiculous superpowers might do. Look, it's got, I would say, a lot of the same problems that a lot of other superhero movies have, which is that you have to suspend some disbelief. But I actually thought they did a really nice job of trying to thread the needle of keeping it as realistic as possible, but presenting it in a way that, look, they have wacky powers, like there's no way around that. So I think at its worst, it reads like Heroes. Did you guys watch Heroes, that show?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually like the first season of Heroes. I never really stuck with it past that, but this is like, in some ways, like a better version of that. And it's almost funny to me that it didn't end up in that kind of development cycle of being pushed toward more of a miniseries. Like, the thing I liked about it is that it was self-contained. Like, I didn't have to worry about, I got friggin' 8 more episodes of this. Like, I knew this was going to be a closed story in some ways.
Yeah.
God willing, they don't make a sequel, right, Joe?
We don't have to watch it, Joe. It's just-
Spaceballs 2: The Search for More Money. Yeah, I like this movie is interesting. I think the first hour, I was not in a good mood trying to watch this last night. It had nothing to do with the movie, but
Did this help?
no, it didn't, Joe. In fact, I turned it off 45 minutes in, and I was like, you know what? If I'm going to give this movie a fair shake, I need to watch this tomorrow. So I came back to it, but because the first hour is like, it's just my problem with the first hour is it's very like cutesy with how much it wants to leave you in the dark. Like, and it wants to do this clever thing where it's just giving you these weird little tantalizing tidbits of, hey, this world is kind of weird, but we don't know why. We don't know exactly what's going on with these characters. We don't know why there's a weird bubble around the dad at certain times. The problem is I think it's too much. Like, I think they needed to give you a little more. I also think it's hampered by its budget. And so it seems like a very intentional slow burn because they definitely dumped a lot of that money into the third act. To me, it's where it gets good is the third act, specifically when all of these plot lines start connecting together. It starts with this scene where the agent played by, what is her name? She was on that Hawaii Five-0 reboot. What's her name?
Grace
Grace
Park.
Park. Yeah. So she plays a woman who works for the sort of like agency thing that is ostensibly, well, so most of society just wants to kill these people on site, and that's what the authorities do. But she seems to work for some kind of government organization that, like any good dystopian sci-fi movie, John, wants our protagonist to be used as a weapon. And I also think it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that, and this is, I don't know if this is like just a mistake in the way they laid it out, but Bruce Dern seems really convinced that this lady would help him and the girl, when like 5 minutes earlier in the movie, we watch this interview with her on TV where she's like very clearly, like she's slightly less murderous than the guy interviewing her, but like she's not on their side. And it's like blatantly obvious from this interview. And the problem for me is that thread kind of makes a lot of the center of the movie fall apart, because the center of the movie is all about Bruce Dern trying to get her out of the house so that he can get her to this mountain hideaway that they believe has been set up as like a sanctuary for the freaks. When we all
know it hasn't been.
Well, no, yeah. but he goes. He's trying to get her to the mountain. He says that to the woman.
Yeah, no, he's trying to get her to the mountain, but he knows that they're just murdering people there.
So why would he be giving the granddaughter to her?
Because he knows that that's his ticket to get back into the mountain, basically. And first of all, she also doesn't know that they're related. Like
right, that makes sense.
The cop doesn't.
So that part I guess makes sense, but it is very slow. But once she gets in the house, once the agent gets in the house, the rescue in the mountain facility starts actively happening. And like the shit with the neighbors blows up, all this stuff. I actually thought the third act was really well done and really tight. And finally things they finally given you enough contextual information where you kind of can orient yourself. And then it's just like, I think pretty good old fashioned tense filmmaking. And you finally get some of these emotional payoffs instead of feeling like depressed for an hour. they're finally some of these relationships are finally paying off. I think it comes together really well. It gives you a nice kind of like semi, heartwarming ending. It's pretty rough around the edges, and I think it kind of stumbles out of the gate a little bit for me. But there is something here that kind of resonated with me in the end.
Yeah.
That's like ultimately for me, because you even talking about the third act is sort of reminding me. I mean, like it actually is clever. Like it's pretty. The script has issues, and if anything, they're doing too much. Like there's too much plot or too many kind of devices kind of baked into the script. I was comfortable with the amount or the way that information was doled out, and I kind of liked the big aha around what Emil Hirsch's power was and why that, like what that was doing to kind of impact the rest of the movie. But the way that third act is structured and the way that they do the thing in the house with the thing going on in the mountain, I actually like that whole device of buying her time and like letting her use her power and a power that she like didn't even know she had.
That's where it gets good though, specifically
Yeah.
is when they are using their powers synergistically. John, there's a word of the day.
Oh, look at this.
Like, because to me the powers I didn't actually find that compelling until like, especially the little girl's power, I feel like is just a real screenwriting crutch in a lot of ways. Because she can basically just reach into any other scene and inject herself into it. And then, like I said, they don't explain the father's power until an hour in. I was zoning out a little bit. I wasn't fully clear on Bruce Dern's power until a little later in the movie too. But once they start working,
He's got the
Invisible,
easiest
right?
one.
No,
Yeah.
but I agree though that like once they start working together, that stuff gets a lot more interesting for sure.
Oh yeah. I was pretty impressed by the time bubble thing as far as if you get into the story and if you're a comic book geek, which I know John's the only one that's going to side with me here. You get in there how we talked about how he kept this. So I think the way they explained it, and I'm going to
This
drop
is like
spoilers
big
here.
spoiler, we should say.
Yeah, this is spoiler alerts, but it's been like 3 months since mom was kidnapped, but he's been raising his daughter in a time bubble for 7 years. That's
Yeah.
pretty huge as far as sci-fi stories go.
Yeah, I mean my
I'd be
issue,
so pissed if I was that kid.
but I think
Oh.
that whole thing to me is like, to what John's saying, it's just too complicated. Like it doesn't need to be that fucking complicated.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but it is typical of a comic book storyline, especially when they're trying to get away from just the dudes with their underwear on the outside of their tights type of superhero stories.
Sure, but if you're
Well-
trying to convince me this movie is good by comparing it to a comic book, I feel like you're barking up the
No,
wrong. You're barking up the
I'm
wrong
just-
tree with me and Joe.
Just pointing out different comic book styles.
No, and I think just to like jump off, what Casey was saying, but your point, Eric, about the budget is clearly true, right? Like these are essentially first-time filmmakers. They definitely got a bigger budget than maybe other first-time filmmakers would have gotten, and they had done some other work. But the gimmicks in this case with the time stuff allows most of the movie to be about the father and daughter, and you have, I don't know, it's a pretty big percentage of screen time that's just one or two or both of them, one or both of them on the screen. And so that allows you to get lengthen the story a little bit, but still, save that budget to, as you said, kind of pour it into a couple scenes. There is that there's a couple other action sequences where when she's coming home or when the grandfather's bringing her home and the dad comes outside and sort of confronts them, there's like that battle that they're using their powers, I think in front of the neighbors. I can't even remember. It gets like I thought they did a good job of at least keeping some of that stuff punchy to get you to the kind of that big finale.
The thing I did like that they kept a little mysterious is, and this is kind of, there's actually some interesting similarities between this and Logan, where you've got an older powered person trying to protect a younger one, and the younger one's stronger, and blah blah blah. And Logan is also like a near future movie like this is, and I actually like that they left that world building stuff a little more mysterious, like subtle things like the wide shots of the city where you can see there's just these giant dystopian skyscrapers, and then certain things are kind of dilapidated in a way that doesn't look right. That stuff I liked that it was left a little, because that stuff you get all the information you need kind of just from seeing it. I kind of just wanted a little more, because the first hour, not only is it like obtuse in a way, but it's also it's hard to watch because the father this is like a really, and again, like this is where I think watching this movie now is really difficult, because especially those of us with small kids, it's like, especially those of us who have kids that are in this weird gray area where they're kind of too young to explain this to, it's like really brutal trying to explain like why we can't go anywhere when they just don't have the capacity to understand. And that's kind of what that's kind of
You
what's
don't just
happening
tell
here.
them that you're gonna die if you go outside.
It's kind of what's happening here.
The
God, I
father
hope not.
handles it like a true Charnews and just like spazzes out rather than trying to like be level-headed about
But
it.
but again, it's really brutal, and there is something there where you kind of once you understand that the father is definitely nuts, but also there's this sweet thing, like he is trying to protect her the only way he knows how, and the world is bad for her. Like her leaving is in some ways a bad thing until she's ready to kind of like hold her own.
He's not being completely irrational, is the
Well,
thing.
no,
No,
and
what you
then
come to
also
realize.
like he keeps asking her like, you know, are you like their whole like tell is that their eyes bleed. Well, he keeps asking her like, are you gonna like you've got to tell me when this happens. And I mean, granted, we only see it happen the one time she's with her grandfather, but like he doesn't feel like he needs to explain it until it happens, and he doesn't know that it happened. So now you have this little sociopath who's
well, see,
on a rampage.
Cece, you made that really interesting point over email, which I was definitely struggling with while watching the movie. Like, it's this ethical thing of like, she does actually seem really super dangerous, like somebody you don't want out. And so, you know what I mean, Cece? Like, you brought it up too, kind of. That's a weird thing to digest. Like, who's likable in this movie, and who do you actually root for? You
Well,
know?
Yeah, but it's a nice like x-ray on today's society and stuff too, though, because you know the fact that because it's set up that this society in this movie is if they find out she's different, they're going to take her out because that's what they do. They're all scared and they're taking it out, and you can put a lot of parallels on that.
Yeah, it is. That's what's funny to me. And I mean, this is like, I don't know if we even want to go down this tangent too far, but the movie, like we're reading this movie in the context of them being in quarantine and us all being in quarantine. Like clearly the movie was not made with a pandemic in mind. It was made,
No.
It's certainly much more going to Casey's point, sort of like, you know, immigration and like people are different and I mean, again, it kind of goes back to all the like old X-Men kind of stuff.
Or
That's
was
done
it,
on purpose.
John? Maybe this
Well-
is just some sick fucking promo.
I mean,
for
the
Party.
dilemma
do.
for me was that for large parts of the movie, and maybe this is my issue with them leaving it so ill-defined for so long, that for large parts of the movie I wasn't rooting for anyone, really,
sure.
until the mother, because you don't really know who the hell the mother is till like deep
Well,
into
you
it.
also kind of think that Emil Hirsch is keeping her
Kidnapped or
in the
some shit.
closet, and you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And so I'm watching
Okay.
this movie, the girl's psycho, the dad's psycho, Bruce Dern is a friggin' nut job. By the way, Bruce Dern's alive, good for him, I guess. And then it's like, and then finally, and again, that's why
Bruce Dern was nominated for an Oscar. Like
that's
3
why I
years ago,
really
wasn't he?
appreciated the third
It's
act.
really just the neighbor's kid who wants to be left alone that you can really relate
Yeah.
to. Like
Yeah,
that's it.
but that's why
But
that's
did
why I
wanna
really
hit on-
appreciated the third act, is because the movie finally deigns to let you in on what the fuck is going on, and so finally I'm like, oh, okay, I understand where my sympathy is supposed to be, or even though I'm still conflicted, like the mother character is, I think, treated as probably the most innocent in the movie, if only because of the situation they put her in, and so once she's the main focus and they're rescuing her, like then I'm like, all right, I kind of like I'm getting this a little more than just two crazy people in their house with their crazy grandfather
Yeah.
driving a molester ice cream truck.
It is
Yeah.
the most
Yeah.
molestery ice cream truck too.
Why did he dress up
that-
as a priest for that one scene?
I know.
Well, because he said he was running an orphanage.
Yeah, but why?
Well, because that's how he got the whatever. That's how he got the girl. They like dropped her off on the
I
steps.
mean,
There's-
Joe, when in Tiger King, when that person gets their arm cut off, why did Joe Exotic immediately put on a paramedic's jacket? That doesn't make any sense either.
Dress for
quick.
the job you want. Eric.
I want to go back to this idea of the girl because I actually I wanted to push back a little on the fact that she's a sociopath. I like the way I was
I
reading
did.
it again.
Did I say that? Are you putting
No, I
words in my
know.
mouth, John?
So my I have a 6-year-old child. She's supposed to be 7 in this movie. Like I actually felt the way that she was behaving was actually like pretty realistic. Like
Yeah.
Well,
Especially
no,
if her
but
dad's
the-
kept
but-
her trapped in a house
yeah,
for
I
7
just
years.
But it
mean,
doesn't
like,
matter-
By
but-
the end of the movie, where she's like having people blow their heads off.
Yeah,
and
it
she's
doesn't
like,
listen.
I know how to fix everything.
Exactly. It does not matter her
That's
intention.
the only part.
It doesn't matter her intention because me as a viewer, I'm like, she is straight up a danger to society. And the thing it made me think of is like the end of the god awful Jurassic World sequel they made, where they set up this thing where they think at the end of the movie, you want the little girl to hit the button to release the dinosaurs, and literally everyone in the audience is like, why the fuck would you do that? Just kill them. They're fucking dinosaurs. Like, that's kind of what it reminded me of, where the filmmaker kind of overshoots thinking they earned something, and I'm not sure that they do totally.
Yeah.
They didn't have to like make her look so psychotic, you know what I mean?
Right.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I think the way she was acting, like the little girl is a great actress, and I think that
Yeah,
like
she's awesome. Yeah.
like she's really well done as a character through the whole movie. I just meant by the end, it seems like the solution to all of their problems is, oh look, my child has realized that she's more powerful than anyone else and can
Yeah.
just have people blow
Well,
their brains
yeah.
out. And you're
But keep in mind too, she thinks. I mean, look, for me, and again, why I liked it, like what I was able to emotionally connect to it, I guess, because she she thinks her mom's dead,
yeah,
and then she
thinks
finds her mom,
she's protecting her.
and like then she just starts straight murdering people. Like,
No, it's
and,
listen,
like,
it's
like-
certainly it's definitely entertaining to watch.
well,
Yeah.
Well,
so
even
the other
leading
movie.
up to that. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go, Casey. Go.
I was going to say, leading up to that, they did a nice job, though, of showing her that she wasn't a complete sociopath either, because some of the scenes they showed when she was using her power and we didn't know it yet, she was like inserting herself into the neighbor girls' slumber parties, or talking to her in the middle of the night that she wants her to call her mom and all that stuff.
That
which
shit
is,
was really sad,
it was
I thought.
heartbreaking. It was
Yeah.
sad. And you realize that she's not a complete sociopath. She just knows she's missing shit from her life and she's trying to replace
That
it.
scene
Which
with
also
the
makes it.
Yeah.
That
I
scene
felt
with
bad
the-
for the neighbor's kid too, that this kid
Yeah.
kept popping.
well, yeah, but that scene with the neighbors where she like is like, "Do you love me, mommy?" I was like, "Oh my god, this is fucking heartbreaking." Like,
I know,
Jesus.
which makes that the best reveal. So when we find out later, when he takes his daughter over to the neighbors across the street to try and leave her with them to protect her, and then all the stuff comes out with the daughter across the street saying, "No, she hijacked my party," and all this stuff. Well, you find out that the scenes earlier, that neighbor girl's used to this girl popping up in the middle of the night and say, "I want you to be my mommy. Tell me you love me."
This neighbor has gotten the raw end of this entire
know,
deal. Just
Especially
like,
the little girl.
for fuck's sake, can you stop coming in my room?
But that's kind of where
no,
that's kind of where that character gets so creepy that like it makes me a little conflicted about the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
Like when she pops into the party, I'm like,
Well,
yeah.
the other
The
other
true
movie,
definition of a neighbor's kid.
Dude, don't even get me started right now. I might go on a real life rant.
No, the other movie that this obviously cribs from, I think, pretty heavily is Firestarter, which I don't know when the
Oh,
last
yeah.
time I
Ooh.
saw that was, but you
The
know,
Twisted Firestarter, right?
yeah.
Fire, isn't that a song,
but-
Joe? Firestarter.
It is. Yeah.
No, but the movie, I mean, it ends similarly, but then obviously there's some subtle differences. But I don't know. I mean, that's the Stephen King like dark version
Yeah.
of where this story ultimately goes. So
Some would say better.
oh, no, I mean, yeah, it's a good little movie.
I'll say one thing. I really wish when they did reveal the mother that it was the woman from The Girl Next Door that Emil Hirsch was in.
Oh,
that would've been nice
Alicia
Alicia
Cuthbert.
Yeah.
Who is this actress though? Because I recognized her, but I couldn't
She's
place
from
it.
Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I had to look it up because I'm like, what the fuck? And I totally. Yeah.
She just has one of those faces. You're like, oh, I know you, but I don't know from where.
Hey, you.
I'm gonna be
I
honest
know
with you.
you.
I
I
pretty
know you.
much only know Bruce Dern from The Burbs, which is enough, but that's it. Like I know he's been in hundreds of movies, but it's pretty much
Yeah,
it.
that's a pretty good movie to know him from.
He's
though.
like the best in that movie.
Wasn't he he's in some remake of some horror movie as like, is it Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
maybe.
He might have been in one of them.
Yeah.
Looking now.
They should
Uh,
cast him as Freddy Krueger.
He is literally in hundreds of movies, though.
Yeah.
So- and I was saying, he was nominated for an Oscar for that movie Nebraska.
Nebraska,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
he
That's
basically,
right,
like,
that's
plays
right.
The same character.
He's Laura's dad, right?
Laura.
Dern.
Oh yeah. Yes. I was like, what? Yes.
Sorry.
That is it's not just a random name connection.
I
Who's in the
figured.
Toolbox
Well, I figured
Murders
since you were
too?
talking Bruce Dern, that if I said Laurie, you just assumed Dern.
But yeah,
Dear God, yeah, he's been in so much. The Toolbox Murders too. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Holy shit.
Yeah, there's the second one.
We did that first remake on the show.
Yeah.
I just remember the first one, the woman taking a bath to like weird country music and
You
going to town
mean
on
you mean
herself.
the original?
Yeah.
Yeah. The remake wasn't great. It was Toby Hooper and Angela Bettis.
Huh.
he's been in the last couple Quentin Tarantino movies.
Yeah. Let's just spend the next 20 minutes
Emil Hirsch
going through
has
his
too,
ID
so.
page.
I mean, Emil Hirsch was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Emil Hirsch. Can we just have this conversation? So I had kind of had it in my brain that Emil Hirsch was somewhat of a bigger star than he
No.
actually is.
No, John. Most of the budget went to covering his shifts at Starbucks, I assume.
Aw, I love Emil.
So I actually really like him too. I think he's, he basically had this run in the early 2000s, right when he kind of broke out. I mean, so Girl Next Door was kind of the one that probably put him on the map, but he was in that movie Lords of Dogtown, Alpha Dog. He wins, or he was nominated for a bunch of awards for Into the Wild. He's already dropped Speed Racer on us, but then he does kind of, fall off the map a little bit. And I don't know.
He did some indie stuff because he was in that the Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
Which
thought it
was
was really good
awesome.
in that.
Oh, that movie.
Yeah,
Got
he
him,
was.
huh?
Yeah, that movie's great. That movie is great.
But,
Yeah, man. I don't know. I guess he just has. I had the opposite of him, where I don't really recognize his face, but I kind of knew the name, like because it's it's a recognizable name.
He's the kind of guy you'd like to forget.
Can I
He
just
reminds
like
me of my brother. Like it's really weird. There's
Well,
something like very boyish about him.
I want to throw out something that I'll probably take shit for, but you know what? Like I'm just gonna say it anyway. When he took his shirt off, I had the thought to myself, if he just kept himself in better shape, I think he would get to the roles.
John with the body shaming.
How is he out of
Jeez.
shape? Like he just didn't
Right.
have abs.
Obviously, I mean, we just looked at Bruce Dern's IMDb, and those washboard abs have gotten him
Yeah.
through the last 40
Yeah.
years.
We can't
Go check out Bruce Dern in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
we can't all
No,
be
no.
Adonises like you, okay, John?
No,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, there was a moment for Emil Hirsch to be sort of like a leading man guy in the, like, I'm not saying he's like Leo DiCaprio level, but there, like, I feel like that was there for him, and he just
Well,
like
wasn't he the one in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that was kind of taking over for Leo DiCaprio? Like, he was kind of the new upcoming kid?
I
Oh,
don't
making
think so.
that
I
up?
thought he was a producer or something.
No, he's friends with what's his face.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
he's one of
He's,
his coke
he
buddies.
gets friend zoned by Margot Robbie.
Should, for Eric's top 10 list, should I make a separate tab for John's would bat for the other team list? Is that...
I'm just saying, I like Emil Hirsch. I thought he was I held him in higher esteem, and now he's he's not
You just-
slumming it, but he's
you wish he was in better shape.
I am confident that I will immediately forget who he is after we record this show.
Yeah, yeah.
I honestly think Emil Hirsch has made some bad choices as far as like projects in his life. There was that big sci-fi horror movie 5 or 6 years ago about the aliens that were like eating all of our electricity or something like that. And
Emil
that was, like,
Hirsch was in it.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm like,
remember
what
that.
movie is that?
Put me on the spot, why don't you?
Did we review it?
No.
Oh.
We skipped it.
I'll remember him like once we can go back out and I can start getting Starbucks again. But for now, like, Emil, I'm not fucking calling it a venti, all right? I just want a medium. Just give me what.
I think you're confusing him with someone else, Casey.
I very well could be. I'm looking now. I'm not, it's
Like
not
I don't
jumping
see
out at me.
any movie that matches that description, but all right.
It
we can
starts
come
with
back
a
to it.
W.
Next week we should just like talk about people that we like and look at their IMDb pages for an hour.
Well, it's got to be more uplifting than the beginning of this movie, though, right?
Ah, come on. I'm just saying, Emil Hirsch. I'm pulling for him, but I'd like him to hit the gym a couple times.
So okay, it looks like Emil Hirsch had a couple of things going on. It looks like he was in and out of rehab, and that he was also assaulted a Paramount executive, went to jail for a little bit. So like
Oh.
he's had some things going on. Okay.
John's into John's.
Yes. Well, I mean, only it says for 15 days, so I don't know if that's
Who
really
knew?
jail.
Who knew?
Hey guys, I'm
who
not
knew,
crazy. Emil Hirsch was in The Darkest Hour. That's the movie I was talking about.
I mean, I think right there, what Cece just said truly like puts a pin on the fact that like he's not doing well. Because if you're if you're a movie star and you go to jail for 15 days, like you're obviously not doing well enough to get out of it.
Also, it wasn't necessarily like. I mean, it says that he. Hold on.
Where are you reading this?
Variety. It says that according to court documents, an intoxicated Hirsch grabbed her and put her in a chokehold, and then pulled her across the table onto the floor, and then wrapped his hands around her neck. So
was charged with aggravated assault after he attacked and choked a female VP of Paramount Digital during a Sundance Film Festival party in 2015. He claimed he had no memory of the incident due to consuming an enormous amount of alcohol.
All right. Yeah, he's been to some dark places. All right. I guess I can't pull for him anymore.
I guess that explains the dad bod.
John,
you would think when he was in prison, though, he really would have worked on those abs.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the situation when he got out, right? Like he's doing great.
John, I never would have guessed you were into Bad Boys, but here we are.
God.
Well, as long as they're fit.
Yeah, that's true.
Good Lord, I didn't know we were going to be like so body type.
Cece, I said it was just a me thing. No one else is signing up for this. I'm the bad guy.
I'm just hoping that when this is all over and I go to put actual real pants on my first day back at work, that they fit. That's all I hope. That's all I'm wishing for right now.
Yeah, I already found out I'm struggling with last year's shorts, so let's not talk about it.
I just hope John will speak to me.
I know. I only wear spandex in the summer, so I don't have to worry about real clothes.
Ah, lucky. I could start doing that. All right, guys. Do you recommend this, Joe?
No.
Cece?
No.
Casey?
I'd say what else you gonna do? So yes.
John?
I can think of a lot of other things to do.
Yeah, same.
Plenty of other movies out there.
I'm with Casey. I'll throw Cece a hat tip and just say it's a movie you can watch. It's sort of in the middle of other movies that are out there.
Yeah,
when you're
you know what? I'm also
you heard it here first. John supports people who abuse women.
I'm also a no on this one. I don't know. Do what I'm doing, which is marathoning 80 slashers. So I'm middle of the Friday 13th series right now. It's great.
No, it's not.
Have you completely? I don't want to get completely off topic, but
the movie series or the TV series?
The movie series, Casey.
Okay.
I'm not watching the fucking show.
We tried rewatching the TV series within like the last 6 months, and it was rough.
Yeah,
so that's
awful.
where the comic came from.
God awful, yeah.
Have you completely dropped the Marvel movies, Eric?
Yes.
A week and a half I stopped, and
I can't. I don't care
get back into it. Yeah.
So here we go. All right, guys. Let's take a quick break, and when we're done, gonna do some fan mail.
New Line Cinema sadly mourns the passing of a screen legend. After 13 years of sending victims to their graves, Jason is finally going to his own. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, rated R. Now playing at a theater near you.
Send feedback.
Hi, I'm Bill Mosley, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. Joe.
What's up, buddy?
Do you want to talk about Animal Crossing?
Oh, God. I don't know, man. I'm a weekend, and I think I'm starting to lose interest.
So we there is a very active Animal Crossing channel on Slack right now. There's several of us playing, myself included. and everyone was talking about it, and Joe was like, you know what, I'm gonna play this game. And so I've had the incredible experience of witnessing Joe experience Animal Crossing for the first time over the last week.
Yeah. I would say the most entertaining thing about this game to me is not actually playing, but watching Leslie witness my 8-year-old daughter and I talk about like our sharing back and forth, because like she has a house on the island that I do. So like we'll leave each other notes and like send her stuff to each other, and like
It's adorable.
we're talking about like, oh, did you pay off your loan and blah blah blah, and Leslie's just staring at us like, what the fuck are you two going on about?
Did you pay off your loan?
Yeah, well that's the thing. That's what I kept joking around about, and like Matt on Slack too, he's the like saying like, this is why I can't play. It's like, I have a mortgage in life, and now I have one in this fucking game, and like I'm picking weeds and tending to the trees, and I'm like, this is the same shit I should be doing outside, but I'm not.
Okay, first of all, you can't cite Matt in arguments because I love him, but he's fucking crazy. Second of all,
I 100% can, because Matt and I are cut.
Here's
from
the
same
difference:
cloth.
is there's no like deadline on the loan. Like no one's pressuring you to pay the loan. If you want a bigger house, you pay the loan, you get a bigger house.
That what's his name is like low key shading you every time you talk. He's like, no rush, but you know that fucking.
So
loan
this is
there,
the way I
right?
this is the way I describe it to people, and honestly, like the reason why it's like the reason why so many people are playing right now is because it's kind of like the tailor-made game for this kind of situation. It's like it's basically like a digital bonsai tree. It's like you log in, you're planting trees, you're kind of designing stuff. Like it's very there. You can't die. There's no pressure. You're just kind of going in. You got this little world, and you kind of shape it how you want and do stuff. It's very relaxing, Joe.
I'll say more than any other game, it's like the perfect Switch game, because like the reason why I don't really play video games is like Leslie and I watch the exact same shows, so every night we'll watch like a couple TV shows, and like I never have time to go just like sit by myself.
Yeah.
But like you don't need the sound, you don't need to hear what's going on in the game. Like I can just sit there while we're watching and like fool around with this thing. And we still like do the same stuff we're always doing. So in that respect, like it's fun to me.
I love the sound because it's like you're on an island, and so you hear like the ocean and like the trees are going. The only thing I don't like, and my wife is with me on this, the dialogue is unbearable because it's like
yeah, the fake language.
Oh my god!
It's that, and also like no matter how many times you do the same task, they never shorten it. Like you still have the same fucking thing over and over again. It's like
the UI stuff is still very shockingly antiquated, but I'm having a great time with it. And there's like I said, there's an active community on Slack playing it, and it's nice. People are helping each other out. Like, oh, you need this item, I'll send you this. It's very it's like everything else on Slack lately. It's very heartwarming to see.
Yeah. I'm terrified of other people's islands. Last night I've had this game for about a week and a half. It was the first time I ventured to another island, and I stayed for 5 minutes and I got the fuck out.
And you can take this is the best part. I did this for an hour on Saturday night. You can take images and convert them to like pixel art and then load them into the game. So I now have a whole wall in my house covered in Friday the 13th posters.
Nice.
It's incredible.
My house looks like some sort of squatter moved in. I have one poster. Like
it's like that house from the movie.
Yeah,
literally, yeah.
A lamp on the floor. There's a radio in the corner and a bed.
I love it. Love it, Joe.
Too much like your first apartment.
Joe, I'm excited to go on this journey with you. Is all I'm gonna say. Other things going on. Cece.
Yeah.
The book club is back.
It is. Great thanks to Alyssa. She is kind of spearheading that for us right now. So yeah, she did a poll in the Slack channel. I think they've decided on a book. So yeah.
The Boatman's Daughter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I started reading it.
So you can read it, and then you have to get on. So there's a Bloody Good Horror Goodreads, right? So that's the cool thing is like you don't have to be a Patreon member to do this. You could hook up with us on Goodreads, read the book, and there's some discussion that happens there. There's also obviously, if you want to, there's like additional discussion that happens on Patreon. But it's a cool free thing everybody can do if they want to just have a community horror experience with people. And so check it out. Can they just search Bloody Good Horror on Goodreads, Cece?
They can. Yep.
Nice. And the other awesome thing, we mentioned this last week, is like the watch along group is like continuing to pick up steam on Slack. Like these guys are watching 2 or 3 movies a week together, coordinating it, hopping on, chatting while they watch the movie. It's really cool to see. So that's another great thing. And Sophie's doing her weekly tweet with BGHs. You can check out, it's like, I believe it's BGH The New Class on Twitter. And follow along.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff happening. We're trying to just like do stuff to help distract people, whatever, in our very limited powers that we have. Along that note, Joe, you had a couple things.
Yeah, we've got a few things we're kind of planning. First one, I started doing this with my family last weekend, just as kind of something to break up the monotony. And like every Saturday, we do like a different theme. Last weekend was island theme. We had some tropical drinks. But in 2 weeks, on April 11th, we are doing Halloween inside because we're all trapped. And I'm going to set up some decorations around the house, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of let everybody in on that. So we'll post up an event on Facebook. There's nothing specific we're going to do, but we thought it'd be fun if everyone kind of celebrated Halloween on April 11th. You can post up pictures with your family, dressed up, or just watching movies, doing whatever.
I think you should have a costume contest, but only like made from household objects.
That's a great idea.
Ooh.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we're trying not to send out any swag or anything just because we're cutting down on mail, but like, we're just trying to do something fun to get people to, have a good time. So that'll be on April 11th. We'll post up a Facebook event. And then this was actually Eric's idea because he's back out there doing stuff.
It's true.
What weekend we decide, John? The weekend of May 16th?
Yeah, May 15th, 16th, 17th.
Yeah, we are going to do a BGH 5K sort of mini marathon, meaning we're going to go out there, we're going to run, we're going to take pictures, post, and kind of get together. We're not going to do any medals or anything this time, although we'll maybe figure out something for the folks who have like the top 3 times or something. We're still kind of ironing out details, but we figured 2 months from now or, a month and a half gives you time to plan ahead and get out there. But I've seen, like, even on my runs, I see a lot more people out now just because there's nothing else to do. So we thought it'd be something fun to kind of get people out.
Joe, I walked 15 miles last week.
Yeah.
up from zero the week before. I was
supposed to run the Milwaukee Marathon next weekend. They canceled it, but they turned it into a virtual. So I'm still, like, technically training.
Yeah, I just I've been racking my brains trying to think of stuff we can do. And, like, the 5K is always, like, one of the most feel-good things we do every year. People really enjoy the camaraderie of it, even though that sounds weird, and because you're not with other people, but like none of us are with other people now, right? So why not do this community thing? And we I'm gonna walk it, and so is John probably. So, or I don't know, John.
Do not speak for
whatever.
me.
John's a loser. Anyway,
John's got a title to hold.
Lots of people walk it and just kind of do it to participate, and it's not about like you don't have to be a world-class runner. It's just a community thing. So.
Yeah.
We'll try to get maybe we can try to get a page up soon with info. People can like a landing page.
I've got some time to put that together. And speaking of my time, last but not least, we've been talking about it a lot. Eric and I have been going back and forth, but I've decided to finally start recording the Joe Answers Your Questions. I don't know, podcast, whatever you want to call it. But I kind of posted something up on social media and we got some response. You can email joe@bloodygoodhorror.com your questions if you have any problems with, your love life or you're looking for help on anything. I'm going to record some like 15-minute episodes. We'll post it up in the feed for everybody to enjoy, not just patrons. And I'll say tomorrow, I think I'm going to record the first one, so it should be up in the next few days or whenever Eric gets around to posting it. Yeah, that's it.
Nice. Wait, did you record the first one yet?
No. I pretty much for the first one, I'm going to take some questions that we got over Instagram, which we got today. So I'm going to record that tomorrow morning and I'll send it to you. And then whenever you get a chance to post it. I mean, honestly, like I'd be happy to do this like every day just to break up people's monotony. But, we'll see how the response is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
going to be sitting by my phone just refreshing.
Yeah.
Basically from now until it shows up. So
once it's slightly warmer and I don't have to wear a jacket on my morning walks, I'm probably going to start recording stuff too. The problem is now I think I have a swishy jacket that I walk in, so I think it'd be too loud. It's very swishy. All right. That's great. Lots of stuff going on at Bloody Good Horror. We're trying to, give people as many distractions as we can. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it.
And there'll be 2 new episodes of Something Red coming out. Can you believe I've recorded 2?
Amazing. That's legitimately very exciting.
So the first one, Dusty and I talk about The Outsider, which is the book and the HBO series. And then Andrew and I talk about The Cabin at the End of the World, which is by Paul Tremblay.
I keep wanting to read that because I remember you mentioning it's super depressing, but good.
So depressing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's an amazing book, but don't read it right now. It's super.
It's on my
Yeah.
Kindle, so that's a good tip. to
I
have.
would wait till we're out of this situation. To
I gotta
read
say,
it.
I'm having trouble reading right now altogether. Like, I don't know what it is. I wake up in the morning. Usually, I would read like a good amount, but lately, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do anything but watch TV and hope for the best.
I mean, I'm working. I don't know what you
No,
people
I'm
are
wor-
talking
I'm-
about.
I'm-
like
Oh,
I work.
When I say up, I mean like my 5 a.m. Like
Okay.
get up in the morning, drinking my coffee
So I'm
before
like,
work.
what?
Joe, what's on Twitter?
We got a lot, or maybe we don't. I don't know. We'll see. We're on Twitter at BG Horror. Every week we use the hashtag AskBGH. You can send in questions or, just get your feelings out. First one from our buddy Book of Faces. My local theater chain is quarantine streaming The Invisible Man for $20. Worth it? Yay or nay? Wait for a rental stream? What say you?
If
I'm
you're-
a frugal Mr. And I would usually go to the early morning matinee for $6, but this is no longer an option.
It depends. Have you seen Tiger King yet? Because if you haven't, do that first.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I actually, Mark texted me the same exact question. I told him yes, it was worth it if he's looking for something.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also, though, if
yeah,
you're
I think-
shacking up with somebody during this quarantine, it's worth $20 for two of you to watch it. I mean, it's
Right.
cheaper than a date.
And I'll also throw in one reason to do this is if you're supporting a theater that legit might not exist in like
Yeah,
3
that's
weeks
good
or
too.
3 months. Look, like you're paying $20 for a movie, you could definitely get cheaper elsewhere, but you're also saving a lot of money by not doing a lot of shit right now. So throwing $20 to a theater you want to support and that you want to go to in the future is not crazy.
Yeah. Were you gonna say something, Cece?
Oh no, I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. We watched it over the weekend and enjoyed it as much as you can enjoy that movie. Next up from our buddy Chase at Chase TX. So I think he's looking for an order here. Freak on a Leash, Get Your Freak On, or The Freaks Come Out at Night. Oh, it's a question.
Get your freak on.
Get your freak
Really?
on. Yeah, that's what I'm with.
Yeah.
I would go The Freaks Come Out at Night.
No preference for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John is not a freak.
Get your freak on has a great little like.
I know it's such a good song.
Do you know The Freaks Come Out at Night?
I mean, yeah,
Classic.
but like, not compared to "Get Your Freak On" for me. I'm
Missy
sorry.
Elliott show.
We're from different worlds.
Ain't that the truth?
Our friend Lycanthropology. What is your favorite dessert? The correct answer is pie.
I like peach cobbler.
Favorite all like this.
Peanut
Let's-
butter pie.
Peanut butter.
Yeah.
Peanut butter
Yeah,
chocolate pie is pretty good.
I won't even pick a favorite. It's like
All of
picking my
it.
favorite child. Like all desserts are amazing, and
Well, let's go around. Pie or cake? Which would your preference be?
Ooh,
Cake.
Yeah.
probably cake.
Pie.
Yeah, I would go pie. Leslie's cake too. We've almost split up over this many times.
if you gave me the option of best cake in the world or best pie in the world, I'm going cake. That's I guess
no.
the way I would think about it.
Pie.
But like average, like there's days where I want a pie. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know there is, Jonna.
there's nothing wrong with pie.
John,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
can't.
I like pie fine.
You can't set Joe up like that, okay, John?
I would.
All right.
I would take ice cream over both of them. I'll be honest. I love a good ice cream.
I'm still gonna go cake, I think. But yeah, all right. Like I said, they're all delicious. Why are you making me choose? This is bullshit.
If there's one thing that Matt and I do disagree on, it is ice cream cake, and it's almost torn us up as well. All right, a few more here. Our buddy Cody Yolo. I finally watched The Loved Ones. Why is this movie rated so highly? Inexplicable to me.
I remember liking it. That's the Australian one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you a thing about it. She wears a pink dress. She's got a crown on. That's all I remember. Drill.
Doesn't she put a drill to someone's head?
There's a drill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that movie's
Yeah.
great.
I
Yeah.
think some of it might have been timing. Like at the time, it might have felt. I don't know. It was received differently than it has been. Like we've seen other movies that are like it now.
Well, at the time, it felt like a good throwback too, which we weren't inundated
I mean,
with throwbacks.
I
Yeah.
think a lot on this show about like how the context you see a movie in really deeply affects how you feel about it. Like, so many movies we love from childhood that are really heavily about nostalgia, but also even in the time we've been doing the show, there are lots of movies that we loved that people in the future might look back on as shitty. There's movies we dismiss that could, like, you know, I think about this a lot when I see 80s movies that are now like major cult classics. And then you find out they got like savage when they were released. Like the critics hated them. You know what I mean? Like, they made no money. It's literally impossible to tell, I feel like, what's going to endure.
Last but not least, from our buddy Skizbot, how many ill-advised, tasteless goofs will we be seeing tomorrow for April Fool's Day?
I think a lot of companies have probably already sent out emails of like, don't.
Yeah. I can't imagine many advertising companies are going to be promoting any, doing any like goofy stuff like they usually do. But I don't know, maybe some. Yeah, go ahead.
I think if we do see it, it's going to be pretty obvious, and they're not trying to trick you into anything. It's going to be like, oh, look how stupid this is, ha ha ha.
Yeah. I mean, I can see both sides. I can see it's probably not the time, but also some lighthearted stuff would probably be nice right about now.
I'm sure Trump and Fauci are going to really have some, high comedy for us at the old press conference.
Maybe as a goof, he'll fucking do something.
Hey-o! He's getting political, folks.
I know. I can hear the listeners leaving.
Listen, that's about the safest political take you could possibly have right now, is fucking do something.
Yeah. I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah. That's all we got, but...
All right. Twitter. Guys, we picked a movie for next week. Cece, would you like to unveil it?
Yes, we're watching The Craft, and I'm so excited.
It's CC staff pick. The witchiest 90s movie. Except maybe The Witches, of Eastwick, right? That's the Jack Nicholson one. I also enjoy that.
I would say this is more witchy.
Yeah.
What about Death Becomes Her?
Oh, that's a good one too.
I
That's
mean,
not a
that
witch.
one's a good
That's
one
not really.
too,
Well,
this is
I
like...
don't mean this derogative at all, but The Craft has a nice edgelord feel to it for the ladies of that era.
well, no. I
it's-
mean
it's more...
I'm most looking forward to like the perfect 90s time capsule-ness of that movie.
Yes, which is what you get with The Craft.
Yeah.
Witches of Eastwick was 87, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got together and decided John, for the remainder of this situation we're in, is not allowed to pick movies, and so next week we're doing The Craft.
I've never seen Craft. I'm very excited.
Nice.
You've
I'm
never
very
seen
excited.
it? That's
I've
fun.
seen it so many times.
I've seen it a
Who's
bunch.
not the main character, but the main sort of bad
Feruza
witch
Balk.
there?
Feruza Balk.
Yeah,
Joe.
Feruza.
Joe.
She
Literally
awakened my love of God.
Joe.
Yes.
There's no tomorrow.
Love
I mean,
the
there was
goth.
hints of it when I was younger. Somebody posted, not to get off on a tangent, but somebody posted today. I saw like if the gal from Legend, when she gets like full on devilly, didn't like spark your childhood love of goth, nothing else did. Like 100%. Like I went back and I'm like, I think that's where it started. I think that's where. It's a thing. We're gonna get deep into Joe's.
Joe, should I?
Sexual awakening.
Joe, should I point out that when I played the Craft trailer a couple weeks ago, we had the same exact conversation, and you still didn't know her name then either?
I never will know her name.
It's like the most distinct name.
Feruza. Come on, that's tough.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe that's part of Joe's thing. He doesn't want to know her name.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're gonna get into
The
it.
crazier she gets in that movie, the hotter she gets too.
Interesting. That I'm more. Isn't Ben Stiller's wife in that movie? I think I was more into her in the 90s.
She is. She's like the racist.
Yes.
Yeah, she's like the popular
Alright.
girl.
Not so
who-
much in that movie, but
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Wait,
right, guys.
who's that? Christine Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah. she's
The Craft next week. It's on Netflix, so check it out.
Yes.
That's gonna do it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hang in there, and we'll see you next week.
See you.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.